Well, happy Monday as we start our second week of December here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about how our perspective influences our communication. As we roll into the holiday season, as we have time to gather with friends, with family, with other people that we haven't seen for a long time, we also have the opportunity to gather with people who don't have the same point of view as we do, who see things differently. And quite often that can end up in tense communication, in arguments, in hurt feelings, and many other unhelpful situations. And leading into those, if you're going into family situations where there might be tense relationships to start with, many of those situations are probably caused by differences in perspectives that led to faulty communication. So what can you do this holiday season to remind yourself to be open to what other people's perspectives are? So I like to use like real life examples or analogies. So um, I want you to just take a look at what I have here in my hand for a moment. And you can look at this and it looks like it might be a wooden box, a book, some type of something that opens and closes. And so if I were asking you to describe it from your perspective, there are many things that you could say about it. It's shiny, it's square, it's small. And if I were describing it from my perspective, I would say, some of those things are true, but I would also say, gosh, it helps me keep time. It helps me do all sorts of things. And you'd be looking at it going, well, how does this box help you keep time? And if we could get into a big argument, because you might say, well, I don't see how that could do that from my perspective. But then if we're open-minded and we turn it around, you can see how now from my perspective, I see something completely different than what you were seeing. Okay? So being willing to stand in someone else's shoes for a moment, to have them say, well, how are you seeing that? Tell me from your perspective, what do you see in regard to this situation? Because people's perspective is influenced not only by what is happening in that moment in time, but it's influenced by all of their experiences leading back up to the time of their birth. When we're age 0 to 7, that's our imprint years, where a lot of information is coming in. And we develop responses even at that young age. So that if we're having a conversation about a particular topic, you might be responding from an event that happened to you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or maybe when you were 2 years old. Might even that you don't clearly remember that event. So we filter things as they come in. Some things that come in, we delete. We choose we don't want to remember those things that came in. Or we distort them. We might look at that I don't want to remember it the way that it happened, so I'm going to remember it in a more helpful light or a unhelpful light, which could be also the case. So it's looking at that. We store things also based on our values, our beliefs, the lens that we see things through. And then that's how we respond to people. So during this holiday season, when you're talking to someone and there's a difference of view, a difference of perspective, instead of getting defensive and staking a ground of you're right, I'm wrong, I'm wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, however it goes there, instead take a moment to breathe and remember that the other person is seeing something from a completely different perspective. And then get curious to see, what perspective are they seeing it from? And what are the experiences that help them see it that way? And you might even ask that. You might say, what influenced that perspective? What causes you to see it this way? And I tell you what, you're going to learn a whole lot more about that person than if you began just having an argument or conflict over who's right or who's wrong. So when we can let go of being attached to our perspective being the only right perspective, then we can begin to soften and embrace what other people are seeing. And when we see maybe your mom responds in a way that you don't understand, and instead of rejecting that, if you can get curious about it and learn why she responds the way she does, then it might help you to have a totally different understanding of communication with her or with whoever it is. Maybe it's a sibling that you haven't seen for a long time that just has a completely different life or life view than you. Okay, so be curious, be open to ask questions about why they see things the way they do, and always remember that there are multiple different sides to every scenario. So from this side, you see one thing. From this side, you see one thing. From this side, you see one thing. From this perspective, you see one thing. And then from this perspective, you see something else. So if you have 5 different people in the room, they're seeing things from 5 different perspectives. All right, let's have a great communication season, peaceful, joyful, effortless communication with those we come across during the next couple of weeks. Mindy, thanks for being here, and I'll look forward to talking to you all soon. Bye-bye.